Rock and roll, and me as a Springbok supporter really enjoyed this game. It was the game between Ireland and the Springboks, or actually Springboks versus Ireland, because Springboks was playing at home on Loftus Versfeld, packed stadium, full to the brim. And what do I think of the full entirety of the game? Well, I'll give more at the end, but I will tell you that some really, really good signs coming out of this game for the Springboks. For Ireland, man, you know what, they were put under a lot of pressure. But for a lot of players that, Casey coming in for Gibson Park, and Crowley obviously for Sexton in there, a lot of new players, Nash, they actually performed really, really well. And one thing that I got to say of the Irish is they are lethal at the breakdown. And again in this game, just showing how good they are at the breakdown, and just stealing balls and just being over balls so quickly, and slowing balls down. They've got an art at doing that. They were called out by the ref quite a bit in this game, looking to slow the ball down. But good signs from the Springboks all round. I've got to say, really, really good performance. I must say the last, 10, 15 minutes, dismal really from the Springboks, from a defense point of view. Something they got to work on. But let's get into the game. When we go into this first highlight, it's actually the first try. This is something that I can see the influence of Tony Brown coming into this team. The backline running with a lot more depth these days. And, kind of new line-out moves where, you got some guys running up and some coming from behind. And you can see they're really working at this backline and making the Springboks now very much a running team as well. And now against Wales and against Ireland, very early in the games, scoring tries. And this happened again in this game very early, and you think to yourself, hold up, the Springboks are looking good for this game. This might be a blowout, but you just know that is not what Ireland will allow. But just look at this phenomenal first try from the Springboks. It's textbook great rugby from the Springboks.
Mbonambi and Pollard from the Ruck from fullback. Jesse Creel, Kolisi to his outside, and Kirkley Aronson gets around Calvin Nash and in!
Now, that step from Kirkley Aronson, he's just such class. This guy's just come in. He was so young, few seasons ago, three seasons ago maybe, and how comfortable he just looks when he's got space. Just his step, and how he just made the debutant Nash just look silly in the way that he just got around him. Scored a brilliant try, but worked by that back line. Everyone doing their job perfectly, and a great try. Springboks up 7-0, and you're like, wow, okay, here we go. 15 minutes in, penalty for the Springboks. And as I've mentioned, one thing that the Irish got away with for me a lot, playing the World Cup in the Northern Hemisphere, is slowing down the ball and basically lying on the wrong side of the rucks, making it difficult for the scrum half. Now, the new rules are really, really serious around scrum halves. This time, getting blown for it, and Pollard gets a kick, and it's straight in front of the posts.
Lines up his first penalty kick of the game.
So they put the kick over, and as you see here, the commentator there is talking about Tony Brown and the influence that he's having on this backline. It is tremendous. Even the Irish, O'Mahony after the game mentioned it, is they can see the difference that Tony Brown is making in just the way that the Springboks are now playing with width. So they seem to be, Willie Leroux is also in great form at the moment. The distribution of the ball and the space that they're creating for someone like a Jesse Creel on outside centre, which he had one of the best games of his life. The space that he got man of the match. Because of this new style of play, it really complements Jesse Creel. It's a very direct, straight type of running, but it's very from a deep running. They run from very deep, and they get it wide. They get it out wide. And the Irish just don't have that kind of press defense to put that under pressure. And it gave the Springboks backline a lot of opportunities to run at the ball, which was great to see. We go on to the game then, and 27 minutes into the game, you still have to feel that the Springboks was often finding space and really getting the ball through the hands, but not able to convert it into points. They were just not getting that last pass away to actually score the tries. And you felt that, almost by halftime, they should have been further ahead, at least 10 points. If you actually watch the game, how much possession they had, how they pretty much were in control of the game, but the scoreboard wasn't reflecting it. And Ireland just so good at the breakdowns, every now and then turning a ball around and keeping themselves in this game. But in this case, obviously off his feet and then getting the penalty. Now they're showing the kicks that Pollard put through, but Pollard missed some sitters, guys. And in both games that I watched, I watched the game, obviously All Blacks playing England and Marcus Smith missing kicks, Damien D-Mac missing kicks, Damian McKenzie missing kicks. You see McCarthy from Ireland missing kicks, which he doesn't usually in normal club rugby. He is still younger and there's a lot of pressure on him. And then Pollard, which just slotted everything through in the World Cup and somehow just missing kicks. But anyway, we move on.
And now Dan Sheehan waiting out wide and low. Gets it inside. Well, that is a brilliant score.
Number one by Sheehan, just knowing exactly where's James Lowe. And James Lowe, just the talent that he is. He's just so strong on his feet, and his awareness, where's the touchline, is something that I find he's just so good at it, like knowing where's the touchline, and his ability. We know over the years in Tri Nations and stuff, the kind of tries that he scores in corners, but somehow doesn't get himself out and being able to keep his body in the air but not touch the line. This something very similar. Somehow just the jump and getting the ball back and then getting that pass through and the try being scored. And it was a really, really classy try. And, again, Ireland just shows how they can keep themselves in the game. Even if the game is not in the flow, and it doesn't look like they, really in the game, somehow they find moments and they keep themselves in it. We go into halftime, and I got to say it, the first half, the Springboks really, the forwards looking very powerful when they got the ball, looking pretty decent in set piece. I got to say, Ireland was matching up with the scrums. They were really holding the Springboks, and the Springboks was battling to find that kind of like momentum of the scrums. It's not like they were. I wouldn't say the first half was a forward game. It was more the backline of the Springboks really shining and finding space, getting that one try. But one thing that the Irish was doing really, really well right through the game is, their ability at the cleanouts to be the first guy there. Well, not the cleanouts, but to be at the breakdown first and be the first to steal those balls. They were able to do it right through the game, and then I've got to say, moments of brilliance there by James Lowe and Sheehan. And James Lowe, just his influence on the game's great. Sometimes good, but in this game also cost him a few times. But that's the thing, being a really good player. Sometimes you're going to get it right, sometimes not. So this is what happened next. And I have to say, before we watch this, Cheslin Kolbe, to me, you got to just really have such a respect for this guy. I think in World Rugby, just one of those guys that until the end, whistle blows, he's just one of those players that will just keep pushing and trying something. It's the same as when he's chasing down kicks. He gives 120%, and sometimes it does pull off for him, and it is really, really hard work and being at a top fitness level to do some of the things that Cheslin Kolbe does. I mean, I don't know how he got to this ball. His ability to just not, even if the whistle blows, to just always push right to the end is just phenomenal by him. But just look at this moment of brilliance from Cheslin Kolbe.
Well, it's kicked in by James Lowe, but Cheslin Kolbe is quick to pounce. That is extraordinary.
Now, that was reviewed, but in the end it was given. It's one of those argue points where they can say, yeah, but because it was margins and because it was called by the ref as a try on field, they had to prove it's not, and that was not. There was no ways the TMOs was going to prove that, because you couldn't even see on screen between James Lowe touching the floor and getting the ball back in. But a silly move from James Lowe, considering. I think he just didn't realize how fast Cheslin Kolbe is, because James Lowe always tries to keep the ball alive. So what he'll do on the wing is try and throw the ball back, slap it back, and usually it comes off for him. But this time he forgot that Cheslin Kolbe's on the field, and Cheslin Kolbe never sleeps. and pouncing on that, and phenomenal try, and the level of fitness to be able at pace to make it to that ball and then score it, and his overall just ability and skills is just, I have to take my hat off to Cheslin Kolbe. This he did, and later almost chasing down a kick again. He is something special, Cheslin Kolbe, and you just can never get past it.
And Andre Pollard.
So Andre Pollard getting this one through, but I mean, if you just look at their kick record, at this point they don't show everything on the highlights, but he was 3 out of 6 kicks. He was missing some kicks that you would just not expect him to miss, and you could just clearly see that these goal kickers, you can see that they were just not, from the World Cup, not really been back in under that kind of pressure in internationals with full stadiums and kind of, everyone kicking kind of poor. I think that Springboks have got it in the bag. It's 28. It's 73 minutes into the game, and then offside for Curtly Arons and getting a penalty, getting a card, and something changes. At this point, the Bond squad that come on, looking better in the scrums, but some knock-ons. Ergie Snyman at the start didn't look his normal self. He knocked some balls on. You just felt that, there was some good from that bomb squad coming on, but also some mistakes. Probably the only highlight was Malcolm Marx again getting over the ball and showing his back, because we know how good he is with the jackling. But overall, then, from about 73 minutes, it seemed like the Springboks just for a while just had a total lapse of defense concentration and just their structures in the defense.
Yep. Lots of penalties down here, 2 advantages, and made the tackle.
Away by Murray for Beelan. Back inside. Brilliant pass. Kelleher. And it's going to be a run-in for Conor Murray.
Conor Murray again going through for the try, and it's 2015, and suddenly Ireland is within hitting distance, and you're like, okay, there's still a chance here. And if you looked at the way that the Springboks was defending at that point, it could have been more tries on the board. There was just too little time for Ireland, but they were missing some tackles, and it's something that they definitely have to look at there right at the end, where they kind of had a lapse of concentration, I guess. But then the big moment, and this was I think probably one of the most special moments. The Springboks not really getting momentum in that scrum, getting that bomb squad on. With that 6-2 split, all new fresh legs, and this was just too much for Ireland. Penalty, basically getting a scrum right on Ireland's line. I think it was 5 meters away from Ireland's goal line, and the Springboks demolish Ireland's scrum, and I think Ireland had a lot to talk before this tour and whatever, but you could see it was a subdued Ireland. They weren't mouthy on the field. They weren't back chatting. Obviously, Sexton wasn't there, which made a big difference. But O'Mahony, which had a big mouth last year and chirping everyone, in New Zealand the year before, and also chirping the Springboks in the World Cup, was subdued and quiet. You just didn't see the same Irish team, and I think they're realizing, hold up, with some of the players that we've lost and the form that the Springboks are in, I think they're starting to realize they're just not number 1 in the world, even if they think so.
Set!
Huge effort from the Springbok 8. They are marching towards Ireland's line. It's a penalty try.
I mean, 78 minutes in, 27-15, you'd feel that the Springboks will really close us down there now, and the poor defense just keeps going on. Real soft try that they concede, and this kind of stuff can really cost them come rugby championship against the All Blacks and those type of teams that can quickly just score 1 or 2 tries at the end. So I felt really disappointed because they played so well up to that last 10 minutes, but just conceding soft tries in the end, and that wasn't great for me.
Low. Offloading contact is good. And Baird.
Now Mongazulu came on also towards the end for Pollard, but he was a bit disappointing in his deep kick, his first kick-off, kicking it much too deep, and he was really lucky. Another huge mistake by James Lowe, touching the ball just before it goes out on the dead end. He could have just left that ball, and that gave them that 5 meter scrum. Obviously learning, he's still a new guy on the scene, but yeah, I mean, overall then at the end, the Irish a knock-on right at the end of the game in their own half, and the game's over, and the Springboks won it, and it looks decent on the scoreline. But you got to say, that shouldn't have been the scoreline if you have to be really critical about it. You have to feel that the Springboks did let Ireland, score a lot of points at the end that they didn't really deserve to me. But in the same breath saying, yes, they did deserve it because they didn't give up to the end. So really great from them. And that just shows you they need to be very careful with the Irish and play full-on rugby right to the end of the game. I mean, they had a full, fresh legs on, so there's no excuses for missing tackles like that at the end. Overall, my opinion from Ireland, I think they did pretty well considering, how many changes they've had in their team and them having to tour. The team did well, but the big talk and stuff, it cost them. The game closed off with Zombie playing and everyone in South Africa singing Russie, Russie's in your head. And Russie might be a little bit in your head because Russie proving again, the bomb squad still works even with the new rugby rules. A good forward pack. You just need one scrum. You don't need two or three to smash another scrum, and he showed that. So again, that 6-2 split, the bomb squad working. But the biggest difference at the moment in Springbok rugby is the influence of the backline and how Russie has brought this kind of like all black flavor into it where they're starting to play more from deep, running type rugby, and it's complementing some players on the field, one standing out being Jesse Creel, and then obviously the fast wings, Arendse and Cheslin Colby. Willie Leroux also had a fabulous game. He's in great form. These awesome weighted kicks that he puts through at the right times, his distribution of the ball. There's real cohesion in that back line, I think the Springboks really have to work on the forwards. The back line just needs to be able to get that last pass away to convert into points. But there's cohesion building in that back line. And what Tony Brown is doing there, if the Springboks pull this off eventually with this back line, with their type of forward pack and this type of back line, the Springboks could become a really dominant force in the world of rugby. You might be saying, yeah, Joe, you're just being another pro Springbok guy, you're a Springbok supporter. Trust me, I've had critics over the Springboks in the last few years. I just feel what Russie is doing right now, the addition of Tony Brown and the type of running type game that he's starting to play, not this forward pack type game where he really distributes the ball out to the channels out wide, which they used to play very kind of in the channels with the forwards, up and unders, trying to force teams to make mistakes with kicking and, really focusing a lot on the kind of press defense, where Russie is almost more to me now focusing on other things, not necessarily the press defense, but more and playing running type rugby, which is refreshing to see. That's what you want to see the world champs do. Be good with the forwards and the backs, and they are going to get there. They just really need to focus on not lapsing in concentration. It's something that Springboks have had a problem with over years and years, where you don't give up until the final whistle. And I've got to feel they kind of just let Ireland right back in with 2 tries with 6 minutes left in a game. An international team should not be allowing another international team, especially the champs, in 6 minutes for the other team to just go score 2 tries when you look at the overall game and how it was. Guys, thoroughly enjoyed it and very excited for next week for both games for me. All Blacks versus England and the Springboks versus Ireland. Super proud to be seeing the Southern Hemisphere do so well and kind of, things falling back in place how it should be, the fact that Ireland have for so long felt that they are the best. I think they need to realize that is not the case. Maybe they had a great season last year and the year before, but that's not quite the case anymore. England's really on the up, and the All Blacks really, I think, got to get their cohesion right and their new game plan and the new way that Razor wants them to play, because Robinson's got a very different way of playing. They're not quite there yet. I think the Springboks are more a step or 2 above at the moment in how they finding form, but there's still time for the All Blacks to find their form as well. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to get you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.